Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to the Correct Views. Sam Ganji of the Media Speaks, tearing down the walls of illusion. We have a lot of Fukushima news, so hit subscribe. Because if you only tune in for the massive Fukushima update, you miss the huge nuke update I did about halfway through the month. You have to subscribe. I run a political show and I run a very anti-nuke show. You have to subscribe. And that brings us to the official start of the Fukushima update. This is where you're going to want to pay attention. You're going to want to take notes. You're going to want to hit subscribe. And you're going to say, oh my god, that was the most informative article. Where did he find it? Survivalmedia.com. Fukushima crisis continues. What all preppers should know. When it comes to chaotic nightmare scenario, earthquakes, tsunamis, and nuclear accidents easily rank at the top of just about everyone's list. On the other hand, there is also the pervasive sense among preppers that these scenarios are not likely to happen in their area, let alone strike all at one time. Of course, that's what's happened in Japan. At least 610 workers and nearby residents died due to radiation exposure, and thousands are expected to develop cancers related to exposure to radiation. The toll is greatest on children, of whom over one-third already show signs of abnormal growth in their thyroid glands and increased risk of cancer. What does that mean? Friends, you do not dilute. They always say you can dilute the radiation by putting it into the ocean, because the ocean is so vast that it will absorb it. The trouble is it doesn't break it down. So it floats, depending on its characteristics, or it sinks to the bottom. In any event, it sooner or later gets back in the food chain anyway. And they have half-lives of millions of years. Look up how long plutonium is deadly. We're talking God numbers here. It'll be just as deadly 100 years from now as it is now. And it's getting into our food supply. You can't even catch tuna out of the Pacific Ocean. There are 0 tuna that don't have tumors in them. Cancer. 0. 0. They all tested, not cancer, excuse me, radiation. They all tested positive for radiation. Every single one of them. 610 now. Much higher in the future. Thousands, maybe a million. And it's coming here. It's already in our food supply. It's drenching California. If you live on the west coast of California, you're an idiot. It says, to put it simply, the Fukushima nuclear crisis is still ongoing and presents a danger to everyone in its path. It is estimated that at least 520, I've always heard 30, tons of radioactive water found its way into the Pacific Ocean. That is daily. And at least 50 grams of plutonium were released directly into the air, plus an undisclosed amount of radioactive materials. 50 grams of plutonium could produce an explosion that would normally take 750 pounds or 300 kilograms of TNT. Now keep in mind, this isn't an explosion though. When TNT explodes, most of the toxins are gone immediately. That is not the case with plutonium. This is scientific fact. You could poison someone with plutonium, bury them in the ground, grow food above their grave, if they were in a coffin, and the plutonium that came up in the plant over a period of time would be just as deadly as the plutonium that killed him. You could dig his body up 100 years from now and it'd be just as deadly. That's what this stuff is. It says the radioactive half-life, which is what I'm talking about here, of materials used to produce nuclear reactors spans thousands of hundreds of thousands of years. When these particles find their way to the water supply, the air, soil, they will remain radioactive and continue to pose a serious danger to almost all life forms. Do you understand that? Other than the bacteria that live in radioactive reactors, which are like amoebas, everything else is poisoned by it. What do you hear? Nothing. Nobody's talking about it at all. It says, how is the Fukushima crisis impacting the U.S.? As of December 2015, radiation from Fukushima has reached the western shores of the U.S. and Canada. Yes, that would mean you cannot live in Los Angeles. That is not a real wise idea. Probably not. It is estimated that some isotopes have jumped as much as 50% in concentration. However, government agencies still claim that radiation levels are not high enough to promote the idea that people should stop swimming, boating, or eating on coastal waters, which is nonsense. That's to keep the tourism money coming. That's to keep the economy afloat, because they care more about that than whether or not you develop a cancer in your whatever and have to get it removed, cut out, and die early. They don't care about that. They just want to make sure you stay there and keep their economy afloat. This mirrors Japan's claim that their coastal waters in the area are safe, despite the fact that radiation levels are 10 to 100 times higher than what is currently being seen along the west coast of the United States and Canada. Look up Beautiful Girl Dana. Look at the work he did on the Pacific Ocean and the things that he found out. The mass die-off that's in certain areas, the way these places have looked historically for the last 100 years, and now look after Fukushima. Everything's dead. Ask fishermen that fish deeply in the Pacific Ocean. They'll say they've never seen die-offs like this. It's leading in some cases to overfishing in the Atlantic. As a prepper, dealing with a nuclear crisis is something that is sure to have crossed your mind. And this is why you would want to. Increasing levels of radiation from Fukushima are readily detectable now along the western coast of the U.S. The progression, it says, of the radiation has progressed inland and now shows up in water and soil located further away from the ocean. If you buy food or water from areas currently contaminated by radioactive materials from Fukushima, try to avoid fruits and vegetables from California. I know it's unbelievably hard to do so. But one of the things you can do is make sure your oranges come from Florida. Do not get oranges from California under any circumstances. Avoid California raisins. You can see why here. It says there is no way to know if these consumable goods are even safe. This includes wine, cigarettes. What's worse than smoking a cigarette? Smoking a cigarette with parts of plutonium in it come to mind. Just about anything else that you think is safe to consume just because it said made in the United States. Unlike Chernobyl and nuclear bomb explosions, the radiation leaking from Fukushima has not stopped. It said it's impossible for consumers to determine almost if elevated radiation levels are coming from Fukushima or a nearby plant or some other source of radioactive material. Being able to keep an eye as being able to expose to radiation is still one of the most important things you can do, and there are 3 things you can do. Find out if you are being exposed. Keep an eye on the data released by Fukushima watch groups and nuclear plants in your area, including controversial ones. Keep that's Kearney, KFM fallout meters in several locations at home and in the office. These devices are easy to make and can help you correlate information found in other reports. I didn't know that. I'm glad I do. Always be aware, it says, of what area of the world what food is grown and processed in. Never forget that dust and contaminated water easily find their way into plants and animals and then into your body. Obesity is an indicator of thyroid problems that can lead to thyroid cancer. On the other hand, thyroid cancers are some of the most common types that people get when exposed to nuclear radiation. Leukemia and blood cancers are also very common in people that have been exposed to radiation. Now you know why the guy with the hat's talking into the camera. I wear a hat, by the way, because I sweat at work and my hair is always stringy when I get home. And if I wash it, by the time all of you are used to tuning in, you've all left. To protect your body from ionizing radiation, regardless of the source, increase your vitamin C intake. Have I not been saying that for eons? I take 2 Emergency a day. They don't pay me a cent, so you can get the generic I normally do. I just forget what it's called. And I tend to drink Life Water, vitamin water. They don't pay me either, so the generic is fine throughout the day. I try to avoid pop unless I'm in a club and you get it rum. You got to put it in something. It says, and it works as a natural shield. If you have been exposed to radiation, make the use of herbal remedies that either inhibit tumor growth or stop it. That would be selenium. There are many other teas and solutions that will increase pH. a more alkaline level so that it is harder for cancer cells to grow. I'm not going to get into that right now, but look up alkaline body types. The more alkaline your body is, the harder it is for cancer to grow because it does not grow in an alkaline pH. If you don't know what that is, it's something you can make your body do that will stop cancer growth based on what you eat and what you bring into your body. I've wanted to do it for a while. I need to look into it better. I eat horribly. I didn't even eat today because I was doing this. Where is America's Fukushima? Well, I can show you the hot spots here. I'm not going to go over each one. Again, this is at survivalmedia.com, and it's a rather long article, but there are some... look, you see that? Did you see that? That would be the most dangerous place in the world to live. And yet, I talk about it, and people will not listen to me. California is safe. It is not safe. Absolutely is not safe. It's nothing even close to safe. Does that look safe to you? God in heaven. It's a dreadful place to live. It's absolutely the most dangerous place to live ever. If you live there, you're sentencing yourself to doom. You guys haven't missed anything. Thank you, HDF, for holding on with that. It says, what about long-term consequences? You've missed nothing. Loss of areas to grow food. Once the land is contaminated by nuclear waste, such as the materials away from the Fukushima plant, it can no longer be trusted to sustain plants that will be consumed for food. Here are some reasons why rising levels of radiation from Fuku being detected in the soil represent such a problem. Any plants that are able to grow in areas contaminated with nuclear waste show severe genetic deformities. Clover with 5 or more leaves, other plants with odd-shaped flowers, stunted growth, giant or excessive growth, stalk tumors, yes, plants do develop tumor growth or knots, increased susceptibility to infection and other problems. And much of that is transferred into you when you do something like unwisely eat it. So it does matter, friends. It matters a whole lot. Some plants and mushrooms, I love mushrooms. Guess what? I do not eat them. They soak up radiation out of the ground like a sponge. They're great to grow if you're going to get rid of them, if you're trying to soak up radiation, but you want to stay away from them and not breathe them in. They are the sponges. They're like a carp of land. Some plants and mushrooms are known to pull toxic radioactive waste from the soil and incorporate it into their leaves, roots, stems, and flowers. Aside from tobacco and its notorious tendency to pull polonium from the soil, which makes cigarettes even more deadly, some species of mushrooms and conifers also pull radioactive materials from the soil. Still, there are no lists of edible plants that pull more radioactive material than others. Failing crops, droughts, floods, and other severe weather patterns all contribute to soil erosion, which does what? Brings the radioactivity deeper into the ground when you grow your food. A loss of water resources. And this would be, again, dust and other radioactive materials in the water pose some serious health problems. This is what you get to enjoy in California, and this is what ultimately gets put on the food that helps you grow. Even though heavy metals can be removed from water by distilling it, there are very few ways to remove tritium, which is a radioactive form of hydrogen. Think Hindenburg. From potable water supplies. Tritium is commonly released by nuclear reactors, including those at Fukushima in Japan that was damaged. Now pause. Do you realize they release tritium into the atmosphere even when the plant is running properly? And they say, oh, it doesn't hurt anyone. Looks to me like it's hurting a whole lot. Who's with me? Leave a comment. Who's with me here? To this day, Japan is still trying to figure out what to do with tritium waste left behind. Oh, it's in leaking barrels right now. Other than releasing it into the ocean, they are also considering simply letting the water evaporate or trying to bury it. The trouble is, that's not going to work. Some of these barrels have rubber seals instead of metal seals, and the radioactivity is just eating through the rubber seal. So it's going to get into the ground when they bury it, but you don't see it, so it's fine. Since it tends to be very hard to detect tritium in water supplies, there are very few, if any, ways for governing bodies to determine how much of this type of nuclear waste is washing up on the shores or falling along the coast of the U.S. and in heavily populated areas. Hope you're okay. If not, that cancer's fine. Just keep buying things. If you watch the news forecast, then it's easy to see what water from one end of the country, or even the world, can move all over the place in a very short period of time. As a result, it is very possible that people on the east coast of the United States may be dealing with the consequences of the Fukushima crisis well before they expected to. In terms of setting up a safe homestead, there is no such thing as a water supply that will remain uncontaminated because of the way water cycles so easily from the air to the ground, which is another reason to shut the funding off for these kinds of things. Again, if the candidate's talking anti-subsidy, that's good. And I know Cruz speaks a good game, but look who funds him, friends. Look who his wife is. His wife's a banker! Many people think that the oceans are endless bodies of salt water, fail to realize that enormous amounts of water evaporate from them on a daily basis. Without this evaporation, supplies of potable water on land would never be replenished. When the oceans are polluted by radioactive materials, the water throughout the entire world also gets contaminated. Loss of safe hunting and fishing areas. Loss of safe air to breathe. There are a few things to consider. Water always evaporates, and so it does. It will carry small particles of radioactive material along with it. In this case, tritium, which they can't get out of the water, will be carried along because it is the lightest of all radioactive materials, which is why they're having trouble with it. As water seeps into the land, particles of radioactive debris will be left behind, and as the soil dries out and turns to dust, it will blow along with the wind, which means that radioactive materials are right back into the air. This matters for a number of reasons, friends. I'm a snowboarder. The snow holds the radiation in the water. You just have to hope you don't fall where a particle of radiation is. I know that sounds stupid, but that's literally what it's come down to. And I pity anybody boarding on the West Coast. You might as well just go to Japan and surf. Cycles of nature aside, there are already statements coming out of Japan to the effect that they don't know how to alleviate the problems caused by Fukushima. They knew about tritium before they ever started these nuclear plants. But now they're, well, we don't know what to do. You never should have opened them, for one thing. And now you need to shut them down now that you have, and just do the best you can with the waste. Look up Chris Busby, nuclear waste, for a source there. Impacts on the economy. It says, in a sense, running a country is not so different from running a business. When you own a business, those who buy from you must have confidence that the products are safe. Yeah, well, I gave up drinking sake. I used to love plum sake. I don't drink that hardly ever. Ever. I think I drank it at my wedding was the last time I drank it, way back in July. And there's more information here. I wouldn't buy, you can see the graphs as I scroll down FactCam. I try not to get Japanese automobiles anymore used because I don't want to have the parts from Japan in my car. It says what we should do. Everyone was focused on trying to avoid a nuclear war. A nuclear holocaust is already underway because of the ongoing crisis in Japan. Never forget that governments conspired to unleash a technology that they did not have full control of and is now presenting a very serious threat to millions of people right here in the U.S. Now is the time to demand answers and action on a problem that is much worse than anything that could have come from conventional guns or even forms of energy generation. That includes cars. Another reason I'm so angry about the Sanders support and the Hillary support is that so many of you, I'm libertarian, I think stopping the subsidies will end nuclear power plants. You guys are convinced that man is warming the planet, even though the planet hasn't warmed in 15 years, some say 17 years. You can look it up, look, planet hasn't warmed 15 years, it'll come right up in a million sources. The answer that the green side has, which is, in this instance, not so much the party, the Democrats, the socialists, is more nuclear power plants. Man isn't warming the planet, but even if they were, the solution would not be nuclear power plants. You cannot support Hillary and Bernie in this. You can't. Because if you do that, then you might as well just plug yourself into the damn reactor. These are the people that let this happen. Now is the time to, I read that, take the time now to demand answers, and there's a form you can sign, obviously, on the site. Go look it up. You get a better look at the graphs. The Asahi.com, they're back. I hadn't been on the site in a minute. Fukushima to turn to third-party mediator to resolve dispute claims with TEPCO. This is like calling in a marriage counselor after you've already killed your spouse. But at least it will prevent them from doing any more damage. The Fukushima prefectural government, exasperated by Tokyo Electric Power, that is TEPCO, that is GE's, foot-dragging, plans to turn to a third-party organ for the first time to resolve a dispute over damages arising from the 11 nuclear disaster. Prefectural authorities, it's like a state, will be seeking an estimated 1 billion yen, that's $9 million, in compensation for expenses resulting from the triple meltdown at the Fukushima No. 1 nuclear power plant. As the two sides remain far apart on key issues, prefectural officials decided to ask the central government's nuclear damage claim to dispute the resolution and to serve as a mediator. This is dragging out for so long, and again, you can see exactly where all the money is going to go for this. You just see it coming, friends. All of you that follow me on this too, you also know that I do more than just the Japan side of this disaster. I do all of it. And now we've got North Korea. That is the great state, the powerful state, the must-be-revered Kim Jong-il. North Korea claims fully successful miniaturized hydrogen bomb test. Great, that's like me saying an infant has a semiotic machine gun. North Korea has announced that it has successfully tested a miniaturized hydrogen bomb following an artificial seismic event that has likely become the country's fourth known nuclear test. And again, they have poisoned huge segments of the region where their nuclear power plant is already. They don't even know for sure how badly poisoned North Korea is. And that's going to be important if they ever, when this regime finally falls. You're going to want to watch your food from certain areas of North Korea too. And you won't hear that from anybody but me, because right now nobody's thinking about eating North Korean food because they have none. But once this regime crashes, they're going to open up the market and everyone's going to be thrilled. Let's try some North Korean cuisine that was made by the power plant. Well, things have gotten worse. They're now testing nuclear missiles again. In a special and important announcement at noon, North Korean TV claimed that the country has successfully conducted a hydrogen bomb test at 10 a.m. local time. Though the test conducted with ingenious wisdom, technology, and efforts, the DPKP, that's Korea, North Korea, proved that the technological specifications of the newly developed H-bomb for the purposes of the test were accurate and scientifically verified the power of the smaller H-bomb, these statements said. And you must remember, their newscasters read everything like this. It was confirmed that the H-bomb, conducted in a safe and proper manner, had no adverse impact on the ecological or environment. No, of course not. Never. You can trust them to tell you the truth. There's an English bulletin on KCNA, North Korea's central news agency. The announcement followed the UCSGS detection of a 5.1 magnitude earthquake in the vicinity of the Nonpyeong nuclear power site. That's their capital. That's how genius they are. Let's poison the capital. The only livable place in the damn hole. The epicenter of the jolt was located 12 miles northeast of Sunjihab. I'm going to butcher it. Sunjibajam, that would be Sunjiaeagam for those who want to try better than I did, which is in the Ryang province at the depth of 10 kilometers according to preliminary data from the U.S. Geological Survey. That ties into this. Dreams come true. Jimmy Kimmel shows video of people congratulating North Korea on an H-bomb test. This ranks right up there with people who believe in global warming voting for Sanders. Late-night comedian Jimmy Kimmel aired a video Wednesday night of individuals on Hollywood Boulevard congratulating North Korea on its claim of a successful hydrogen bomb test. The enemy that says he wants to kill us. In other words, it's like the man on the street thing. The idea of North Korea having a hydrogen bomb would be somewhat alarming to those of us here on the coast. However, to prove how stupid people are, there are people that said, "That's really good. Congratulations, North Korea." North Korea threatens almost weekly to bomb us with them. You know, I think that if they do believe that one day dreams do come true, another said, I bet you they were voting for Hillary or Sanders. I bet my ass that idiot was a Sanders supporter. If you believe you can do it, then you can achieve it. That would be a Clinton supporter. Congratulations, Kim Jong-un, on everything you've done, one more person added. What have they done? They have tested a bomb that they plan on using on you and your children, moron. Ron Paul Institute, North Korea nukes, a case for non-intervention. A last thing about the North Korea mess. Cries of glee must have emanated, from the military-industrial complex and the Beltway think tanks, as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un made another of his periodic pleas for global attention. The nuclear detonation is looking less likely as a powerful and thus significant than the North Korean government initially claimed, but that is not stopping vested U.S. interest in playing up the threat. To some, like Donald Trump, it's all China's fault. It said, but the North Korean problem is a direct result of U.S. interventionism and uncertainty it produces. After all, the Libyans gave up their nuclear program and not long afterwards were regime changed by Washington. Yeah, they killed Gaddafi for nothing. No one thinks a similar attack on North Korea is imminent. So as a deterrent, North Korea's nuclear policy actually works well. I don't know that I agree with him on that because I'm very libertarian. But that's like saying that your duplex neighbor or your apartment neighbor is allowed to grow meth because it only affects him. No, if it blows up, it affects you. It's not like he's selling weed. Drugs are drugs. Yeah, weed doesn't explode, bonehead. No, this is really good, man. The problem here is if North Korea or any country has a nuclear accident, it does affect their neighbors. It does affect other people, and it affects them in ways that greatly affect their lives. So I'm not sure I agree with Ron on that one. We got 3 more stories to get to end your massive Fukushima update. I do want to give a shout out to Sticker Junkie. You can see their stickers there. Oops, as I destroy my set. Sticker Junkie. Go to Sticker Junkie. Best stickers you've ever had. If you know what you want, they can copy it. If you have some idea, they will get the idea out of your head and make it a physical, tangible reality. When you check out, type correct views or the correct views, and you're going to get a discount because Sticker Junkie supports us, and we proudly support them. Delay for Prez. Julie Fiddler, safe, it asks. A nuclear waste site at St. Louis sits above underground fire. That would be St. Screwis. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is ordering an isolation barrier to be built at the Westlake landfill in St. Screwis, Missouri, where nuclear waste dating back to 1973 Manhattan Project was illegally dumped 4 years ago. Merry Christmas, St. Louis. You thought the Saints were having trouble. An underground fire has been burning beneath the landfill some 1,200 feet away from the adjoining Bridgeton landfill. EPA spokeswoman Angela Brees said the barrier will essentially be an underground wall. Again, the location of that is something to be worked out, she said. Additional engineering controls will be installed according to Brees, including cooling loops to prevent impacts from the fire at the landfill where to come into contact with nearby radioactive materials. The agency has not said when the barrier will be installed, which has infuriated many locals, including Don Chapman. Just take your time. It's just nuclear waste. It's just cancer. It's just heart disease. It's just catching every cold that comes down your way. It's not a big deal, right? What's a few brain cancers in children? And it affects babies more largely because of the soft spot on the head, in case you're wondering. Which I think most of you on the left have. And if you voted for Cruz over Trump, I know you do. Let's keep all the nuclear power plants open, shall we? Let's vote for a progressive. Let's vote for a banker. They have had quite a while now to figure out what they're going to do barrier-wise at the site, Chapman said. I think this is one of the biggest flaws in the EPA and Superfund is the amount of time it takes to get anything done. In October, an underground fire at the Bridgeton landfill only added to the anxiety of local residents as it began to smolder even closer into the radioactive waste. Neighbors fear it could spread nuclear contamination over a large area. Well, we just explained how that happened ad nauseum at the beginning of this. Not could, does. See how they do? It could spread nuclear active. Right there. See that's what's commonly known as bullshit. Will spread nuclear contamination over a large area, as we went over at the beginning of the show. The work will be paid for by Republic Services, which owns both landfills. Lucky them. The company maintains there is no risk the fire will reach the radioactive waste. No, not a chance. In 2009, Westlake landfill was declared a Superfund site. In 2008, the EPA announced a plan to cap the nuclear waste with a rock and clay soil. And people wonder why I yell. Independent.co.uk, terrorists could use drone bombs to attack nuclear power station, experts warn. It's like saying if I drop this brick, it might hit the ground. We have gone over this so many times. Yes, of course that's going to happen. Drones that can be bought at the high street shops could be used by terrorists to attack nuclear power stations. Major events like the GC summit or even the Prime Minister's car, according to a report. The Remote Control Project, which is hosted by the Oxford Research Group, looked at more than 200 drones and concluded that they will be used as simple, affordable, and effective airborne improvised exploding devices. Now, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say there's a million barriers to prevent this kind of thing from becoming anything that you have to worry about. That is also BS. You have Fukushima keeping water in tanks with rubber seals. And you're going to let the authorities tell you that there is no threat that this is going to be used. People who don't know how to read and write have found their way to sneak into North Korea and out of North Korea. Particularly out. How do you think North Korea has a drug problem? The drugs come in. So ISIS terrorists would never think about such a thing as throwing a drone at what is surely a very well protected nuclear site in North Korea, right? I'm not saying they're going to do it, God forbid, at Perry nuclear site, although it's possible. They're going to hit a very unprotected spot at a very unprotected time. Because while they are barbarians, they are not idiots. And that brings us to, speaking of idiots, the dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dee. The dum-dum-dum-dee-dum-dee of the day. The TSA. TSA, I love trap step. TSA can force passengers to go through body scanners. Replace the word body scanner with cancer machine. Don't believe me? Look up Dr. Helen Caldicott. Don't believe me? Look up Dr. Chris Busby. Look up Lauren Murray. Look up backscatter radiation machines cause cancer. For another thing, we have no idea who's even calibrating or testing these things. They've been found to juice people at much higher intervals than they say they do, and there has been a provable increase in cancer among people that run these machines on a daily basis who work there. This is all easy to look up with the simplest search engine. A new policy change mandates the Transportation Security Administration to require airport passengers to undergo electronic body scans. They're going to push this through to the backscatter radiation machines. The Department of Homeland Security revised the Advanced Imagery Technology protocols for the TSA to no longer allow passengers to opt out of electronic scans, though the machines at checkpoints prior to the change people could use to undergo physical screening. It said while passengers may generally decline AIT screening in favor of physical screening, TSA may directly mandate AIT screening for some passengers. This is an awful idea. You would have to have missed everything that I have ever gone over in this show to think that that is a good idea. Why would you trust people when you have no idea who they even are? To calibrate radiation machines and then promptly send you through them. I'm sorry, that makes absolutely zero sense to me at all, and that is the dumbity of the day. Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views. Share this video. Let people know about what you heard. Otherwise, I'm doing it for nothing. And please do not support candidates that are in favor of the big banks that are funding the nuclear power plants. And do not vote for anybody that is in favor of subsidies. Because if you do, you're voting for someone that is going to be bringing along nuclear power plants and routine tritium releases, which give you what Helen Collicott refers to as simply a routine cancer. You can donate to the show, thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Please let me know you want to donate. I'll tell you where to send it. Everything. Every penny you give me goes towards a better show. You see this? Lighting. Look. There's 3 of those. That's what it looks like if you don't donate. Only I won't have that one either. Or that one above me. And I'll be sitting in the dark. And that sucks. Well, then again, I'd probably be a lot prettier. Friends, do me a favor. Donate. Good night. God bless. And thank you for watching.